Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. We have Adelia. Is it Carrillo? I know the L's may be silent on that.
Correct. Yep.
Joining us for another episode of Rich Soil with Chief Entertainment. Again, we are big on education, and so we want to start off the year with some amazing women in the industry. Great mentor for me as well as a woman in the industry. So overall, as far as a holistic, energetic, vibrant woman, and not just virtually, I want to say that every time I am in your presence, you equally have the organic energy that you share on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And so I appreciate it's something that I look forward in meeting people in real life. And so thank you for coming on. I'm going to go ahead and let you share a little bit about yourself, maybe share a little bit about who you wrote, who may be a mentor to you in the industry or out of the industry. Or sometimes I say I have mentors from afar, like Ed Milet, people who are motivation speakers and things like that. So you could add that in if you find that to be in your routine. But I do like to ask my guests first off, do you consume cannabis this morning? Did you consume
I
anything?
didn't consume this morning, so I am one of the nighttime consumers. I'm like really type A, and so for me, even though cannabis is part of my life, I still just feel like it does impact me some ways when I'm working. And I give props to people that can. My business partner, my fiance, he can consume in the day and he's a hustler. He will, he can go to meetings and I'm like, wait, they're going to know. And it's like, it's not bad that they know we're all in the industry, but yeah. So no, I didn't consume this morning, but tonight I will.
And do you have a preference on how you consume? Is it flower, concentrates? Any preference on that?
I love joints. I'm a pre-roll girl. I love my flower. I'll go through my phases. I think you're mixing one of the drinks. Like on a thing for drinks right now, all different types. Yes. Oh, my high. Yes. I just got one of their tea version ones, like the nighttime tea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's
TJ
good.
has been, I know TJ from My High. He has came out to one of our events and hooked
Awesome.
everybody up with some really amazing cocktails. He does a really good job about mixing to people's ratios. So that's really fun. And I think the My High is just growing all the way around. I mean, all different walks of life are enjoying that. And even like you said, when I'm at a social event, that maybe more be like a trade show or more like a white collar type. We're definitely not able to puff. Like I've been addressed before where they're like, no, you can smoke. And, they came up to me and had to say, no, it's just vape. You can't just light a joint. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't get the full
Yeah, you didn't tell me
disclosure.
that part.
Yeah, so that's where My High I think is really great and things like that, where it's an edible or something where you can microdose. And I think that he gives that opportunity, or they give that opportunity with the stick having the different levels, and it's just easy to carry around. So yeah, I like one of those things. But yeah, drinks have been a new kind of like a tasting for me.
Yeah.
Last year was probably that's the newest thing. I'm not a big edible person. Are you?
I go through phases, I'm not more like I get a lot of gummies. I'll try gummies and they work. But if I'm gonna do edibles, like I'll kind of have a different kind of theme for it. Where was this kind? It brought me back to when I was a kid, and it looked like the gum that was like in a little circle. I don't know if you remember that, and you would
Yeah,
pull the gum out.
yeah,
So there
bubble
was,
gum. Isn't
yeah,
that
like
called
bubble
bubble
gum.
gum?
Yeah, bubble gum. Yeah.
Like pink.
And they made a gummy like that, or I guess it was a sweet and sour kind of candy patch thing. And I was like, I could dig this. Not all
Was
the
it
time,
Safe
but
Gyms?
it was
Yeah,
them.
I think
Yes.
they make a belt.
Okay, the
Yeah.
belts. Yes.
Yep.
I was obsessed with that when I found it. I'm like, I could see this. And now in Arizona, they don't have it here. But
Also,
yeah, I still go back to my flower. That's just my easiest one. I know how it's gonna react. It's just what I like.
yeah,
The whole
same for me.
process.
I think I'm like your fiance and partner. You said I'm a daily smoker, maybe a dab in the morning, and I'm ready to go. I'm also a mom of a 2 and 4 year old, so it keeps me in the right state of mind, I should say, even though it's a heavy dose, but I've been smoking for a long time. And so I think it comes with people's tolerance and everybody's body's different. I know you're not alone in that boat, that many people are more of a night person. That's great. As long as you're learning about how it, feeds your body. I think that's important. You had mentioned that you do take cannabis. Tell us a little bit more about yourself all the way around, how you got into cannabis, kind of what led you there.
Yeah, I love that. Well, first off, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I always love being in your presence as well and having these conversations with you. It just flows so naturally. Um, but a little bit about myself. So yeah, my name's Adelia Carrillo. I always start off with like, first and foremost, I'm a patient. I reconnected with cannabis. I consumed in high school and when I was growing up in college and whatnot. But as I got older, it kind of left my lifestyle and, about now 10 almost 10 years ago now, I ended up having some health complications. My fiance and I did find out we were pregnant, and unfortunately it led to, again, some complications that were impacting my life. And so I had to have an emergency surgery. I was having an ectopic pregnancy, and going through that was just life changing, not only physically but emotionally for me. And so after, honestly, almost a year of living in my house, I didn't want to leave. I had full blown anxiety. I was just so depressed, and just, I didn't feel like a woman after going through something like that, I was looking at cannabis as kind of like that last resort. My fiance mentioned it. I laughed. I was like, why? That's just, to me, like back in high school, I would smoke and have the munchies and the giggles. Like, what do you mean it has medical? Like, I was just so naive. And thank goodness I was open to taking that chance, because, again, I ended up going the route of becoming a patient, and it changed my life, 180, physically, emotionally, even business professionally. I left my career in the consumer electronic industry and came to this industry. And so that was the beginning of coming into this space. I had a variety of different companies. I launched my first company, which was called Direct Cannabis Network. We were a B2B digital news network where we highlighted cannabis tech entrepreneurs and startups. I did close that. I closed that business, and now I am the CMO and co-founder of Eventhi, which you mentioned. Eventhi is an online ticketing platform for those that are unfamiliar, similar to Eventbrite, but we focus on the cannabis culture and community. I'm also the co-founder of Bluntbrunch, which is a women empowerment event series. And then I'm on a couple of boards. I do volunteer my time for This Is Jane Project, the Women's Canna Cup, the International Cannabis Businesswomen Association, and Humboldt Grace. So I also like to volunteer and stay busy, as you
I
can
appreciate
tell.
it. Yeah, no, I love it. That's one thing I do love about you. It's inspiring for me, as well, who equally loves giving back in any way that we can. So I think time is money as well. And so when you're saying volunteer, I think that's very crucial for a lot of people in our community to do. And it doesn't have to be cannabis related. I know, I do things for Feeding America in Riverside. Me and my husband and just family will pop up a table and do something on Skid Row. This year we had a little bit of a cold deal, and so things have been a little bit different since COVID. But I think it is important that we get out there in the industry, from our industry, to represent ourselves. And I think it opens conversations up when you're around people and they find out what you do, and they meet the true you outside of just knowing you're a cannabis user. And I think it opens up their eyes as far as like, holy shit, there are like really successful people out there who prefer cannabis, who
Yeah.
function just as well, if not better. It's just very, I think there's a lot of education that's still lacking out there. For us to be heard is through education, and that's through events. Which is why I personally, when I host events, you guys have always been my number one platform. You guys are extremely very hands-on. I will say that anytime I've had any issues, the response is very, very quick. The turnaround time is there. And so I can appreciate that coming from somebody that's using your platform, who's hosting events. Events are, I think, underestimated sometimes, how much work and how much anxiety that gives me. So it does take a team to do that. And I do appreciate that you've curated that for Event High and for people like myself in the community to use that. Do you want to touch on anything like that? Do you have particular highlights that you want to talk about, or maybe some challenges as a woman who's curated a business platforms and is working side by side with your fiance, or have you guys tied the knot? I'm not sure yet. I'm like, I think I'm
Fiance. We're
waiting.
basically married, but yeah, fiance. We haven't officially tied it yet, but yeah. Yeah, well, thank you. It's exciting to see how Event High has been able to grow. We do have some upcoming exciting news. We are finally getting out of public beta, which means we're going to have what we're calling V1 of Event High. We're going to have a lot more, better user experience. We're going to have more features released, and just what we can offer to event organizers. It's going to be a lot more enhanced. We do have stages, so we'll have V1, and then we'll be releasing more stages this year. With COVID, it really did impact our company. To be real, we almost didn't think we were going to survive. We are in over 47 states. And when that first happened, seeing just every state basically canceled events, shut down, being in public, we got hit, and we saw it. We got all the calls of canceling events, refunding, postponing, people not knowing what to do, us not knowing what's going to happen. And so that was, I think, our biggest hurdle, as a team, and rightfully so, especially being in the event industry. But that was also one of our most learning experiences, I would say, as a team. We are a small team. I think that's one of the things behind the scenes as a software company. Some people may not think that, but we're a lean team, and we're here. And that's the one thing, though, striving in customer service. So I'm so glad that we have always been able to meet your needs with that, because that's the one thing Ali and myself are like, our customer service, no matter where we're at as a journey, as a company, has to always be our top priority, but anyways, I digress. So with COVID, we were able to really learn a lot and learned how we were going to survive. We ended up pivoting to virtual events, helping with the virtual event production. And that was like our saving grace. We also were hosting a lot of educational events, because we're like, we got to bring the community together. We got to keep the organizers together and update them on what we're learning. Because again, as an event organizer yourself, that how big that was, how much event organizers and producers and everybody in the event landscape were impacted by this as a business. So that was one of our biggest learning experiences. We are here, so we survived, and it was really just trying to pivot and get even more leaner and just focus on keeping our mind on the bigger picture of Event High. So leading up to now, we're about to get out of public beta, and we're just really excited for 2023 to continue to showcase all the new software components and features and enhancements that we can release to event organizers, to sponsors, and even to event goers. So we got a lot in store for this year.
I love that. I love everything that you guys do and where you guys are going. I know you guys are very ahead of the game. You guys do a really good job about making sure we are compliant. I know you guys take a lot of time to put things like that together. You have newsletters. I want to say compliant is a big deal. I think a lot of people don't really think about. And the more I did events, it was things that I would restructure because of those emails reminding me of where we're at, and how, I want to be seen as far as a business owner and how I am as a host of events. And because safety is a huge deal, I think compliance is a big deal. So thank you for putting that together. I mean, I'm sure it takes a team that you guys are consistently doing research to make sure you're on top of that.
Yeah, it's been interesting, going into the whole compliant component. It does take a team, and it takes a lot of man hours. And, it's not just like at end of the year, do your finances for our financial institution. Every quarter we are running audits. We're running background checks. We're doing all these things that we just didn't think we would have to do. We're just a ticketing platform, but we're doing it. The bank that we partnered with, we were one of the first software companies they signed on. They mostly work with dispensaries and deliveries. And so we were their first official software company. So they didn't really have the processes built out specific to a software company. And so we kind of were their, I would say, guinea pig, like they had to change a lot of their forms and internal things and understanding what a software company does compared to dispensary. So, now we're going into almost 5 years with this bank. And so it's been great because we have that trust now with them. They understand our business model, and we've kind of set the tone for other software companies for them to work with.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's important that our banking gets to par. I come with almost 2 decades of corporate banking background. So I don't touch too much on that, but maybe that's something that I need to start sharing a little bit of the do's and don'ts as far as, what it takes to open a business account all the way from lending and getting investors and what that looks like for somebody. So I do believe in compliance and regulatory being there and us understanding it and seeing where it would best benefit us as far as business owners, especially women. There's a lot of fine lines in things. And so I think I respect that you have a strong partner as well, and you guys are doing this together. That's another thing that's very admirable, is being I want to say like a strong power couple to do something like this. I think it helps you guys kind of find the do's and the don'ts as far as what works. Him being a male, you being a female, having a masculinity and feminine energy in a business is very important. I think you guys really cater to the community very well, so I appreciate that. Your network is probably primarily of, I would say, both. Do you have anything specifically that you guys focus on when we're talking about networking?
Yeah, so it was actually pretty interesting to when we were looking at the data of who our audience is. And there's a lot of different data points, but just focusing on like women and men, more women are event organizers, and that probably makes sense. We like to host. We're very structured and organized. No offense to the guys out there, but we have a lot of things in order, and so that might be a big component of it. I think it's also another thing with events. It makes it more accessible for women to be able to make money, be able to build community, be able to get their foot in the door in the cannabis industry. So that could also be a good component. But when it comes to event organizers, a higher majority are women organizers. And then on the attendee route, it's actually it's flip-flop. There's actually a lot more men that are attending cannabis events. But we definitely want to continue to keep our eye on these numbers and see how it goes. One interesting fact, though, about the community and about the brands is we're starting to see, and this was definitely before COVID, and happening now again in the past year, where brands are starting to host more events. They're realizing themselves that to get that one-on-one in front of their community is more vital. They still sponsor other events, but having those, more intimate events of showcasing just their product has been very valuable for these event organizers.
Yeah. And I think that is the best approach in today's time. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different brands coming out almost every day. And what better way to get to know the community that you're catering to as a brand, I think. And so I think events aren't going anywhere. They're all types of different events. And I just think you got to find your tribe and your type of event, but don't be scared to try different ones that you may not be accustomed to. I think that's really important for us to remember that Event High is there to provide service, education, and also help you be compliant when you're doing events. So make sure you guys stay updated you guys have newsletters. You guys keep us very updated. I appreciate that. The marketing is amazing. And so kudos to you. Bluntbrunch, you briefly touched on that, but I know that I don't know if that's where I met you, or it's probably from Event High, but I think Bluntbrunch is also amazing what you guys are doing as far as creating women events to that scale. I saw MJ BizCon that week you guys pulled off a pretty big one in Vegas. That was poppin'. I wish I was there.
Here we already have the date set, so
yeah, you guys are kicking ass. I mean, you guys are consistent, and I think consistency is huge when it comes to events and community. When you're curating a particular club, I think for women, the consistent flow of knowing, okay, like maybe this month I can't make it. We have so many things to juggle, especially as moms. And so with you guys having like this tour that you guys are doing, and are you going to do it again, 2024 or 2025?
So we're changing it up a little. We loved that tour. It allowed us to go, to all these places, and we're still going to go to other places, but we're going to align with conferences so that then we can just do more meet and greets. What we did at this past Vegas event was we were testing it out because we wanted to launch it this year, but where we do like a meet and greet at conferences where we get women together for a quick, 30 minutes, and then we do a group photo. We're going to transition that because we tested it out in Vegas, where we're going to incorporate speed networking with all the women for 30 minutes, and then we'll take the group photo. And so we're not going to do the bigger events at all these other cities. It was a lot of work, and we loved it. It was just a lot of work, and the landscape where brands are, we just didn't want to keep bothering them, and not that it's a bother. There's value. Obviously, we're both event organizers. There's value in sponsoring these events, but it's also like we have to be realistic with where our market is. These bigger events, those sponsorships are not small, and so we would rather focus on our smaller socials with our co-hosts that keep it more tangible, and we keep it monthly, have one big national event, which will always be in Vegas. And then we'll collaborate with these conferences and do like a meet and greet, speed networking, power hour with women in cannabis. So that's kind of the transition. We learned a lot last year. And again, with Bluntbrunch, we're a small team there as well. So we're juggling a lot and just trying to do the best we can to furtherly empower women nationally, because it's been growing nationally, which is crazy.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. I think you guys have a lot of diversity in the groups that you guys have in the network. Your community is always very fun and full of light. Usually you guys have all types of different people come out. So we appreciate when you guys do that. And no, it's not easy to do events. And so we appreciate when we are seeing these events at that scale. I think that's going to be really exciting. I think that that's the one thing that I've recognized is there's going to be so many different types of events. How do we have the time to really get that one-on-one with that person that you maybe admire or see some sort of business model from, to learn from? And I think that route would be very, very educational to a lot of us, and to those who may be just trying to learn. Maybe you're just into plant medicine or alternative medicine, and you're an RN and you have a crazy medical background. I'm seeing a lot of that now, and I love seeing that. I think it does show a little bit of the effort that we've made so far for all of us who've been part of the cannabis industry. I was very much part of the black market. So to see where we are now is really exciting, and it's exciting and still a lot of growing to do. And so when, talk about you guys learned a lot last year, that to me is more important, because I think you should always be growing as a person, as a business. Looking at data, absolutely important, necessary, boring shit, but it has to be done. It's the shit that's not talked about. We've become an industry, a market, where there's monetization there. And so those are things we have to look at. I appreciate you sharing all of that information. Like I said, conversation's the best way to learn from people, learn about other people's way of doing things when it comes to being an entrepreneur like yourself. Tell us again where we can support you as a woman, as an advocate, and then also for Event High and Bluntbrunch and all the other associations that you are part of.
Awesome. Yes. Well, and all that information you just shared is such valuable insight and advice. Like, again, it's the knowledge that you've gained through your career and through building community as well with your organization. So yeah, to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn under Adelia Carrillo. That would be a great place to connect with me directly. With Bluntbrunch, you can go to www.bluntbrunch.com. We are also on Instagram, which is @blunt_brunch. And then if you want to learn more about Event High, go to www.eventhi.io. So it's an IO for Event High. And again, our Instagram for Event High is eventhi.io. We have some exciting announcements. We have our newsletter, as you were saying, that keeps you updated with the latest upcoming events. We also share tips on event organizations and organizing and structuring as well for event organizers. So we're always trying to do our part with education within Event High as well, and focusing on community and bringing us together. through our event organizers that are part of the Event High community for sure.
Awesome. That is great. You guys heard it. I don't want to butcher it, but I know eventhigh.o is on my to-go list at all times. Like I said, if you guys are hosting events or maybe you guys are curious about hosting events, definitely check out their platform and stay tuned and learn more about where they're going next and what they're doing. So again, Adelia, thank you so much again for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you at some of the Emerald Cup events and just connecting and staying, in community with you, but also growing with you at the same time.
Yes, I
I
feel the
appreciate
same
it.
way. Thank you. I appreciate you too. And thank you for having me on.
Thank you. We thank you guys for tuning in and more education to come. Again, thank you for tuning into Rich Soil with Chief Entertainment.